Welcome to the Mom Boss Podcast, the show where motherhood meets business and everything in between. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mom Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Gordon, and today's guest is a really special one. She has been an OG Mom Boss since the beginning. She has heard it all. I am so fortunate to have her as one of my best friends and business-minded mamas who is in my corner at all times. Please welcome to the show, Lindsay Jarrell.
Hi.
But Lindsay, you have been here from the beginning, and obviously you have moved from the Pacific Northwest. Tell everybody where you're living nowadays and give us a brief intro about your family and what's going on, what they're up to, and all that fun stuff.
Okay, that's a lot. I moved to Dallas, Texas. Never thought that we would be here, but we are. I have a 6-year-old boy, and he's in kindergarten this year. So we just started that transition of having one in school all the time. Liv is almost 5 next month in April, and she's in preschool, and she'll be going to kindergarten next year. We are just getting acclimated. It feels like it's taking forever. So that's really what I spend all my time doing is I feel like I'm finding my footing every day.
Yeah. When you finally get adjusted to one thing, it seems like you might be adjusting to a whole
Something
other
else. Yeah.
aspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't mean to put Will on the spot. What brought you to Texas?
He was actually not looking for a job. He was recruited, and the recruiter reached out to him multiple times. We kind of thought it was a joke. He took the initial phone call. One phone call led into multiple, and then he ended up getting the job, and we moved down here within 4 weeks.
That was such a whirlwind. I mean, it happened so quickly from phone call to move. Like it was wild.
Yes, it was so fast.
Your world has totally flipped upside down. And obviously, that's really difficult. Not only is that hard in general life, but as a business owner who relies solely on clients and client relationships,
Yes.
I I'm curious, what are some things that you've done as you've relocated? And there's layers to this, of course, but I'm curious, what are some things that you're working on now?
Ugh, everything. I feel like it's a complete rebrand. When we decided to make the move, I was very much like, this is fine. This is why I'm doing my own thing, my own business, so that I can be flexible like this. And I was just really adamant that we would go back and I would just start everything up again. And then we got here and it was a lot harder. There's a lot more things that are out of your control and it takes longer to acclimate than I expected. And so I went back and forth for the first like month and I was going to take the rest of the year off. And by October, I was trying to promote myself for holiday photos. I was having such a hard time watching everybody back home and like the entire community of photographers that I'd built and some of my best friends. I was watching everybody during what is typically a really busy season for us. Everybody was working, and I was having a really hard time not working. So I ended up going into like a neighborhood Facebook group and posting that I was going to be taking photos. That's kind of where it started. Actually, if I could back up, I met someone at a party that I was invited to within like the first 2 weeks that we moved here. And it was like a huge party for basically every mom in the neighborhood. And I went to it and I met someone there. And she asked what I did. And I said I was a photographer. She was like, oh, well, you should take my pictures. I haven't done family photos. And I ran into her at another event at the school and she was like, I was really serious about that. I don't want to push you if you're not ready to get back into it, but I would love to do it. So I had to start everything over. I had to do a pricing guide for families because I was doing weddings and engagements and couples when I left the Pacific Northwest. So that one person who asked me a few times is the reason why I kind of got started again.
Yeah, that was the push you needed. You were sitting on the fence, and it almost seems like that was what pushed you to make the leap and say, yes, I'll do this.
Yeah, like a recovering people pleaser, someone standing right in front of you being like, "Hey, do you wanna take my pictures?" And I was like, "Yes." I mean, of course I wanted to, but I just like I said, I was really trying to take the whole rest of 24 off, but I just couldn't. So, because I remade all of my materials and my new offerings and readjusted everything, I had to do the market research for pricing and stuff. I decided I just revamped everything for this one person.
Yeah.
Let's just see if I can get more bookings out of this work that I just did. And I'm already going to be shooting. So I offered some more mini sessions for the same time.
Even though it was really hard and it was something that like really stretched kind of that desire to go inward, probably as you move to a new city, you were juggling a lot, not only professionally, but also personally. And now, not only are you building up your families again, but you're working on building an entire kind of like offshoot of your own brand. What are some of the things that you've been working through as you navigate this transition?
Um, so much. It's kind of
Therapy
crazy.
session. Therapy is
I
in
know.
session.
This is
Therapy's in session.
therapy. Check in, everybody. Buckle up. Well, I think that initially just seeing my friends be in the work and staying in the work and almost feeling a mix of FOMO and being left behind. Like, if I pause too long, will I start again? Will I know what I'm doing again? And I already have like momentum because my business was going really well when I left. And I was trying to carry that over, but it's hard when you don't have, all those clients. So there were those feelings. And then I just had to like stay off of Instagram initially. I was doing okay, but then I referred some of my clients in Washington to you and other people in the community, and to see on someone's story, someone photographing my clients that I would be taking photos if I was there. That was also it was okay. I obviously referred them, and I want those people to have photographers that I trust take
Yeah.
their photos and to give them the experience that they deserve. But it's also just another reality check to open up Instagram and be like, "Oh, that's not for me anymore." So I was dealing with that and trying to figure out where to land here in Dallas. There's a lot of photographers, and I had to start over with market research, figuring out, am I going to have a new niche? Am I going to keep doing weddings? I had to make a lot of decisions for me today and for the future. And I think that's really hard to do. And because I'm also making decisions for my family at the same time, I've made all of these life decisions to move. And then I get there and I immediately jump into my own things that are like for Lindsay and those decisions.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that answers the question.
I think, no, I think it does. There are so many moms who are probably going to come in and out of the mom boss community and either move because of their spouse, or maybe they're a military spouse or something like they're going to deal with what you've gone through. And I think that you speaking the truth about like what has been hard and what has been, because it's not easy. It's like, no, actually, I'm wrestling with a lot of emotions that have changed the trajectory of where you were headed and what you had worked so hard to build here in
Yeah.
Washington, and then of course moving to Texas and having to rebuild. I think it's really great for you to share and be totally truthful. So thank you, and we'll we'll have more therapeutic questions coming up.
Yes. Why not?
Why not? Just throw it all in there. You had mentioned moving into a new niche and finding something new. Can you talk a little bit about Lindsay's Littles and what you're doing there?
Yeah. It's funny because my entire career as a photographer is just like a compilation of like one person at a time holding me up, like a friend being like, yes, just take that idea and do it, or someone referring me. There's always one person, the one person at the football game who was like, no, I really wanted you to take my photos. Like, that triggered me to go into working in Dallas. And so this is kind of the same situation. Our real estate agent, Adrienne, is amazing. I found her on Instagram and she helped us with the move. And she's just like my type of people. And we were texting one night about something, getting together for a coffee date, and we were talking about pictures, and she shared with me pictures of her kids, and she was like, you should do this because the company who does this, they're just a traveling company. They come once a year And she sent me the pictures and she shared with me the experience. I asked her, "Do you mind telling me how much you paid for this and like what the experience was like?" And essentially she gave me the idea. I got really fired up about it. Like creative people just take an idea and run with it. I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. And so taking personality portraits for kids is what she was talking about. And now that's what I am working towards. I spent the last few months taking pictures of kids in studios and figuring out the lighting for studios and the posing and prompting for kids, what lens to use, the pricing, the packaging, all of it, and how I can kind of position myself in the market here in Dallas to be someone who is here taking those photos all the time instead of, there are companies who come through and just take them annually, which are great, but those are like selling out. I did a lot of research and everyone who's coming here is selling out all of their sessions for the weekend. So that told me there was some sort of need for it or desire for it. So it's a huge pivot for me, but I'm trying it out.
Yeah, no, I love it. Okay, so let's go into this. As a mom, you feel the need to provide for your family. Like that's just, naturally we want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's good for you to find something like this that can be utilized in so many different ways. Like, not only can you do that in Dallas and then surrounding places in the Texas area, but then, of course, you can travel back to Washington and make that happen for your clients and return clients and things like that. I was about to put the words into your mouth, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway.
Okay.
What are the pros and cons to moving and restarting your business? I mean, there are obviously a lot of cons. Like it's
Mhm.
difficult to do,
Yeah.
but I'm curious what pros you have been surprised by
Yeah.
during this move.
Well, let me tell you. I think that being able to reinvent yourself is one pro. It's an opportunity to do something. I mean, a lot of people maybe will have thought longer term, have this idea kind of festering for a while, and then they bring it to life. It wasn't that exactly, but the whole reason I was open to it is because I was like, hey, I can pivot here.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want. I can be whoever I want. And I think that when you are a business owner and, today in 2025, you're running your business on social media and you're constantly putting yourself out there and you become your brand, right? What people kind of expect from you. And then you have this opportunity to change it because you change as a person too. Like, I'm not going to be Lindsay, the 50-year-old wedding photographer, but shout out to all of the people who can hang like that. So
Mm,
there is always in the back of your mind, like, I'm going to have to pivot at some point, but relocating gives you like the freedom to just kind of like stop everything and really think about all of it in a more intentional way after years of being the same version of yourself outwardly on, Instagram or TikTok or wherever you're living. So that was really nice. And it felt really freeing to be able to give myself the opportunity to think about it differently. And then along with that, also pricing. I mean, pricing is such a huge deal for everybody and it is so hard and you will hear it with everybody that you're talking to.
mhm,
But I really felt like I wasn't charging my full value when I was in Washington because I started at $50 and then 100. It took me so long to move up because recovering people pleaser, I didn't want to let any of my clients down or for people to feel outpriced or to
mhm,
shut that door on anyone who couldn't increase their pricing for photography. And so I really stayed in the same place for a lot of years.
mhm,
I'm obsessed with all of my clients in Washington. And I'm so thankful for them because a lot of them see me multiple times a year. And now that I've moved, I still have people booked for Christmas when I came back and when I come back in the spring. But there is something about finally feeling like I can do what I need to do for my family without
yeah.
being worried about any outside noise.
Totally. I was going to bring that up. I was going to say, you finally get to do what you deserve to do for your family. You have moved on from doing this as a side gig. And I think that's something that a lot of photographers specifically, I can't speak to any other industry because it's really all that I know. But specifically, we do this so often as a side hustle, side of
Yeah.
our regular day jobs. And
Mhm.
so a lot of us price ourselves too low because your systems are kind of a mess when you're, doing this on the side. Your return times are really slow and you're not able to put in the time for extra education and all that. I think that's really difficult for everyone, not only the client to understand, but also us as business owners sometimes. It's really
Mhm.
hard to come to terms with, oh my gosh, no, no, I can't be charging $300 because that means I need to do like 800 sessions in order to make a living wage. And
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, I need to reformat my brain to rethink about this. And I think that that is, you hit it like nail on the head, hammer on the nail, hammer on the head of the nail. I don't know what the,
No, I think you had
what,
it
what is it?
on the nose,
Head on the
on the
nail?
nose.
Okay, let's just change it
I
entirely.
don't
It's
know
on the
what it
nose.
is.
You got it right on the nose. I mean, like relocating gave you that freedom to make those decisions easier. It's probably shockingly the easiest part of that move. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I can actually charge what I need to live here in Dallas. So I think that's such a good point and such a good thing for people to remember. Honestly, without even relocating, I mean, I just hope that pricing is just, gosh, I could do a
Right.
bazillion podcasts on that. I want
I
to ask
know.
every single person about how
I
they get
know.
to their pricing.
It is so hard.
It's
You
hard.
just have to do it. And
Oh,
I will say this, I've said it to you between us, and we'll say it here. And you had Gina Paulson on previously. I was second shooting for her at a wedding, and we were driving back, and she was like, "You have to stop pricing for yourself." And I take that with me all the time. My therapist actually happened to be a luxury wedding photographer before he was a therapist. So we got into some conversations there too. And he also had said something to me that really changed the way I thought about it. What is your get out of bed price? What will it take to get out of bed, leave your house, get yourself childcare, take the photos and be in post? What is your get out of bed price? I ask myself that all the time. When I get an inquiry that's maybe not something straightforward, it's like a mini session or 1 hour session, whatever, it's something more detailed. It really is like, well, what's my get out of bed price? Especially here, like I don't have childcare. So
hmm
I'm paying for that too.
yeah. Speaking of childcare, tell us a little bit more about how you're building your village out there in Texas.
We got so lucky with our neighborhood. When we came to look at this neighborhood, we looked at a house that was 3 streets up. And it was the first house we looked at on the first day. And we got in the car and I started crying. Will was like, "What is happening?" And I'm like, "This is the sleepiest, quietest neighborhood. I think everybody who lives here is like over 70. I don't see anybody outside." And it was the first week in August, and it's a million degrees here, so no one's going to be outside. And then on the last day, we saw this house, and I cried all night at the hotel. I mean, like guttural sobbing, just like, I can't believe we're doing this, and where are we going to live? And I was so worried about so many things. And then this was the last house we saw, and this was 3 streets away from the first one in the same exact neighborhood, but I didn't realize it because, I didn't know where I was at all. And we liked the house. And we were like, this is such a cute neighborhood. And it was the same neighborhood. And, anyways, we got here, and Will got here a few days before us. And there was a birthday sign for a boy turning 6 in the yard. And he sent it to me while I was still in Washington. I just started crying.
hmm
I was so relieved that there was going to be another kid on the street. And now it turns out we have like 5 kindergartners on our actual street. So we've been
hmm
really lucky. Everybody's been really welcoming. There is something to be said about Southern hospitality. It just is such a different culture than it is in Washington. I have people on our street that I would call an emergency. I have called on them for some help, and everybody's been great. As far as childcare and building my business and having that kind of support, it's non-existent. So it's just
Yeah.
me. So, Liv goes to school for 3 hours, 4 days a week. And those are my hours to do my whole life. And, you've heard it from people that you've talked to here. And By the time you drop off and pick up, you have like 2 hours and like 30 minutes
Mhm.
to kind of get everything in. And right now we're doing the podcast and everybody in my house is asleep. It has
Mhm.
to be after bedtime.
Yeah.
So I don't have anyone during the day or anything like that. So it's really finding pockets like when I'm feeling
Right.
creative because you can't just like I just can't work all the time. I know that's going to sound so silly. Like everybody goes to work and they don't want to go to work, right? But they still go and they still do it. You have to just have such a different motivation and self control when you're creative. And so I'm learning how to work when I'm not feeling creative because that might be the only time I have the whole week.
Mhm. Well, and, like, as even just somebody who worked for somebody else in the past and not just for myself, you've experienced what it's like to go to work. And sometimes you just get to do those data entry type of things like emails or like things that
Mhm.
don't require creativity, right? And then, of course, you're here at home and you're like lost in the abyss of what it is to be a business owner. If you don't
Mhm.
have some kind of a routine or some kind of a schedule for yourself yet, it's going to be that way. But it's so hard when you get 3 hours or 2 hours and 20 minutes. Be like, okay, I can either fit in working on this guide or I can do the laundry, which also
Yeah.
needs to get done. Like
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
becomes a balance of motherhood life and business life. Talk to me a little bit about like what kind of a routine you have found, or are you still working on finding that? Or is it something that you're kind of like, you know what? We are so close to both of the kids being in full-time school.
Yeah.
I'm just in survival mode. I'm just kind
Yeah.
of curious where you're at.
Love this. My routine is every morning, the 4 days, Monday through Thursday, that Liv goes to school, I wake up and I make a decision, like, should I take my computer and my things with me? One, is my computer even charged to do that? Hopefully it is. But I choose basically every morning, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take all my stuff with me. I'm going to drop Liv off and I'm going to go to a coffee shop to work. I might know exactly what I need to work on or just know that I need to work. Other days, I'm like, I'm not going to take anything with me. And that's going to force me to come home if I want. Like sometimes I will drive her in my house shoes so that I don't go mess around at Target or something I shouldn't
Mhm.
be doing.
Uh-huh.
But the reason why that's my process is because that's as much mental energy as I can give it. But if I'm home, I'm going to do the dishes and I'm going to do other things. I just I cannot do it. I was diagnosed with OCD about 2 years ago, and 90% of the time, I have to leave the house, go somewhere, and do my work so that I'm not distracted by things that I feel like I should be doing instead. So I have to make the choice, and, sometimes I'll try to plan ahead, but I really try to go a few times a week just to the coffee shop and take all my stuff with me, and I don't even come home. I don't wanna have the option to get distracted, and I'll do that. But when I do that, that means I'm leaving at like 8:30 with Liv. I'm taking her and I'm sitting there and then I'm going to get her and we get home at 12:30 and then I turn around and get William a little bit later and it feels like the day is very lost when you're also staying away from your home, you know?
Yeah.
A
Mhm.
weird thing of like I feel like I just have to be away from my home. That's also its own balance too.
Yeah. You do have a little routine. Like your routine is to go with how you're feeling that day. I think that that's awesome and really helpful for you and really helpful as a mom who's relocated. I just want to ask you really fast. This is totally not even close to on topic, but what's your coffee order?
Oh, that's a good question. For like a lot of years, I was a iced white chocolate Americano girl with extra ice for years. But now that I'm here, so because I relocated and, still like making friends and stuff, I go to coffee shops all the time by myself. That's like how I am getting out and feeling like a human. And I usually will ask the barista what their most popular or most like ordered iced beverage is. And I will get it for the most of the time. I will get what they recommend with no substitutions because I want it how they make it
Yeah.
and then I'll either adjust after. So it now I'm like, whatever. Isn't that
Yeah,
wild?
that is wild.
It's has to be iced and it has to be extra ice. And I love nutty flavors. So I'm obsessed with this drink called Hazelnut Dreams. So now that I'm here and I'm going to coffee shops so often because I have like nothing else to do, I'm finding my favorite drinks, the Lone Star Latte, things like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I really like that for you. I think that's awesome. Okay, I want to touch on the OCD a
Yeah.
bit. Therapy, back in session.
There.
I want to talk about the OCD diagnosis. What was it that kind of led you down that path, and how has it given you maybe some clarity into your life as a mom, business owner, wife, things like that?
Yeah.
How has getting that official diagnosis helped almost like put on glasses, make you see things better, or has it done anything like that, or am I
Yeah.
totally off base?
You're so off. So I had William and Liv, and I had a lot of intrusive thoughts after I had William. That was all kind of chalked up to like postpartum depression and things like that. And then we had Liv really quickly after, and everything kind of just stayed the way it was. When Liv was like 2.5, I had decided that I'd been long enough and that I should just like see if something else is going on. And so I did go to a psychiatrist and did my whole consultation interview, and she diagnosed me with OCD. And I kind of went in thinking that it might be that because of some other stuff, like some counting things. But, when you're in your head, you're not in anyone else's head. So you don't really know what's not normal. So
Mm.
I assume everybody counts stairs. Do you count stairs?
Like as I'm stepping them?
Yeah, you would know if you counted stairs.
No. No, I don't think so. I don't think I count
Yeah.
them. No.
So, like, I've been counting stairs my whole life and
Mm.
stuff like that, and, like, I wanna step
Mhm.
on things with my right foot and,
Mm.
things like
Mhm.
that. But again, very mild, kind of like you don't know what you don't know, and so when she diagnosed me with that, I was so relieved. I was
Yeah.
so relieved because I felt like I'd been searching for what was wrong with me, I guess, or what didn't feel normal. And something about OCD that I think a lot of people don't know. I do have a little bit of beef with the internet and everybody being like, "Oh, I'm really clean. I have OCD," and I say that really,
Mhm.
um, but OCD is pretty serious for people. People can be a little bit flippant about it and kind of self-diagnose all the time, but intrusive thoughts are a part of that. And so I'm constantly having thoughts about terrible things happening to my family. And that is a
Mhm.
scary place to live. And a lot of people think that that's just part of postpartum. And yes, some of it can be, but postpartum OCD exists and it's real and it doesn't go away. And so that's really hard. So it was a relief for someone to tell me that and that it was normal for me.
Yeah. So the counting of the stairs, for example, is that something that you were doing pre-kids, or is it something that you were doing after you had William?
Yeah, so the stuff that I was doing pre-kids was, I was doing a lot of counting, like had like a thing for even numbers and, there's always going to be like 4 ice cubes in my water, things like that. Nothing that was debilitating. I didn't have any rituals of turning light switches on and off and kind of those things that you'll see on TV or kind of more
Mhm.
surface. And then I started having the intrusive thoughts after I had William. I'm guessing I had it to some degree prior and then postpartum, kind of touched on that and it just escalated dramatically from there.
Yeah. The intrusive thoughts are so bad. I always thought that all moms got that, right? Like you
Yeah.
think all moms get these intrusive thoughts, but they're like thoughts that I won't even say out loud. And a lot of times you brush it off as, oh, it's just postpartum, it'll go away. And then it manifests itself as something different later on, maybe even more intense or something that you just didn't see coming. So I think, gosh, I wasn't expecting the
Yeah.
podcast to go this direction, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
really like it.
You have a baby and then your brain, you do change and you do worry. We're gonna worry our whole lives. And that's part of being a mom. But like, one of the questions she was asking me during the diagnosis or what have you, she was trying to get to the bottom of some things I did. I think, to figure out if I had it or not. And one of them was checking the baby monitor. So William is like 4, Liv is 2.5. We have the baby monitor, and I'm explaining to her that I have to check it every night before I go to sleep. I will be like almost fully asleep, and I will just be like, I need to check it again. It was on Will's side of the bed. I'd get up and walk to his side. I needed to make sure that it was rotating video. The sound had to be on a level 2, not 3, and definitely not 1. And it had to be face down. And then I would come back in bed. And there was a real fear when she said, like, what would happen if you didn't check it? Because you already checked it the hour before. What would happen? And so
Ugh.
things that are more debilitating and get you up in the middle of the night, because if you don't check, then you're going to not know that someone needs your help or something.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if things are like, making sleep hard or life hard, I worry about how many ice cubes I give the kids in the summertime in their cups. It's hard.
That's so interesting. For anybody who's listening, what were the steps that you took to get your diagnosis or
Yeah.
officially help you get to that point?
So my therapist had told me I could be diagnosed by a psychiatrist. So I looked up someone, if you have insurance, you can look them up who is covered. And I just made an appointment and we did it over Zoom. And it's just like an hour or more of therapy, is what it felt like, asking a lot of questions, a lot of paperwork.
Mhm.
But there's a huge difference in like a PCP and a psychiatrist giving out medicine. And I think that if you're going to get any type of mental health medicine, like I personally, now that I see the difference of a doctor just being like, here's this and here's this, versus a psychiatrist really getting to the root of the problem. And they've been really good about changing medication when needed. I think it's really important to be dealing with someone who really knows what these medications do and don't do and when it's time to change them.
Yeah, not just like slap an overall like
Yeah.
prescription on somebody because they have XYZ or
Yeah.
OCD. I guess I could use the real the real
Yeah.
letters or like whatever, and then yeah, being able to change them as the person kind of evolves and responds to their medicine.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's really helpful. I want to go back to being a business owning mom and relocating. I always ask everybody this question. I like to talk about the default parent. I think that it's just so important. I think it's nice for people to feel seen and like, okay, it's not just in my household. I'm curious, like, how do you guys navigate the default parent stuff, especially
Yeah.
because you don't have a village with you and it really does fall on you and you don't get like a huge break. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is a really new space for me, to be honest. Will has always been such a good partner. When I had PPD with William and then quickly getting pregnant with Liv, he said after 5:30 a.m. when she wakes, it's me so that I could sleep. And that's never changed. She's almost 5 and Will gets up with them every single morning. Even if I just sleep an extra 10 or 30 minutes more, that's what I'm doing. Being here and being completely full time without any support, it is different. I don't even know if I have sorted through it. Sometimes it feels okay. Like moving here when your spouse gets recruited for a job and you guys aren't expecting it, he got this opportunity. And I think part of the decision making was like, I just am going to commit to doing this. And maybe that's like committing to being the default parent, if you will.
Hmm.
But it was kind of the commitment that I made without being resentful too.
Yeah.
And it's been hard. There's definitely been times where I'm
Yeah.
like, I need a break. And a break is not me leaving for 2 hours and coming home to a messy kitchen that I need to clean. Or my break isn't
Hmm.
2 hours, but the kids are screaming outside the door the whole time. And by break for 2 hours, that is to build my business again.
Yeah.
It's not a break. And that's maybe the harder part for me. And maybe it is being the default parent, but I feel like Will does want to give me these pockets, but these pockets are to work. And
Right.
it's not like I'm going out and golfing or going out
Hmm.
with my girlfriends.
Yeah.
And so I do come back and I do feel like there's a little bit of like, oh, okay, good. She got to go do her thing for a few hours. And that is true, but it was work. And I think that's
Yeah.
really hard. Not just for Will, but for like anybody.
Hmm.
to like any partner and or like married to someone who's like
Yep.
a creative and trying to build a new business and stuff. And
Yeah.
so getting the break is really to work, and I'll go like, I go
Yep.
and I get my nails done, and he's very flexible with that, but it's hard to be with them as much as we are, and then to feel
Hmm.
like we've fully decompressed. I mean, that's why we stay up till the middle of the night. I'm like, "Give me 6 hours till I can even, like,
Hmm.
come down from everything," and I, as my own human, take a really long time to decompress. I mean, you could send me away for a weekend, and I would probably just start feeling normal again when I come back. So
Uh-huh.
that's kind of hard too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said it. It's very hard for a lot of spouses who are not doing what we're doing. If it's a spouse who understands like entrepreneurship, creativity, like kind of those aspects of things, even then it's probably not that easy. But it is something that is a learned process for spouses. And it's something that requires a ton of communication and planning because they don't get it. When they decompress or when they are not working, and I don't know what will, like, how his job works, but a lot of
Mhm.
times people can leave their job and come home and they're pretty much good to go. Like, they don't have to hop on the computer for another 2 hours or like they don't have to stay attached to their emails at all times. They can kind of, come home, decompress, and then go back to work and then they're back on. Um, but that's not how it is for like business owning moms.
Yeah,
You don't get to really you turn it off, being in Texas and being like the primary person, which you said you moved there and you kind of unofficially accepted, like, yeah, no, I'm committing to this without
yeah,
resentment, right? But it's like, that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with those feelings of like, God, I'm burnt out.
yeah.
Wow, I need a break. Wow, my kids have been sick for 2 weeks straight. I'm ready. I don't know if
Mhm.
I'm ever gonna catch up or get back from this. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what are ways that you decompress and find your way back into equilibrium for yourself and how can you be like the best Lindsay?
Oh, good question. I'm still figuring that out. I don't know, Bailey. That's a very good question. I mean, literally, Will got invited to go golfing with our neighbor who's like 70, and I really wanted him to go golfing with him, and he's asked him a few times. So, I mean, even after he's been going out of town more, Will has been going out of town more lately for work. And then he had this chance to go do this with the neighbor. And I was like, please just go. But the night before, I was like, you know what? You're going to be gone all day tomorrow. So I'm going to get my nails done. That's kind of it. I mean, right
Yeah.
now, I think if I was at home in Washington, I
Yeah.
would I would be going out to dinners with my friends or going to these community events and doing things. I'm a very social person, especially compared to Will. And so I had such a big community and so many friends that I could lean on and physically go do things with after bedtime. So I don't really know. I think that's kind of what we're working on. That's part of relocating, and
Yeah.
it seems like, okay, we moved here in September and it's March, but it takes so long to
Oh,
sort these
yeah.
things out. Like, we're also learning his job and what it's asking of him. And it's a little bit more travel, and that's fine. We're really still just learning. I feel like we have to be here for a full year to go through all the
Yeah.
seasons, quite literally, like the seasons of
Yeah.
his job. Certain times of the
Hmm.
year, it's like demanding more from him. And then for me as a photographer, it's busier. So I feel like every month new stuff is coming up, and I haven't figured that out, like, at all for myself.
You haven't really had a chance. I mean, you moved in September, kids started school, then the holidays, then you guys were traveling back and forth, and then kids were sick for a while, and then it's the new year, and January dragged on like it does, and then February
Yeah.
flew by, and then it's like, oh my God, it's March. It's almost like this is kind of your new year. Like, it's your time to give yourself grace and be like, okay, it's
Yeah.
and you know what? The winter, like I think that really I'm really into this right now. We haven't talked about this a ton, you and me, just like on our voice memos. Lindsay and I, for those that don't know, we like message constantly, like daily. We're voice memoing back and forth all day. One of the things that I'm really leaning into is kind of the seasonality of womanhood and like just being a human in general. The winter is for being slow, taking your time, reconnecting with yourself. Like, I didn't do a good job at that. I really want to be really intentional with that. So now, as we're heading into the spring is the time, kind of like, like you see all the little newborn babies like jumping around, and like that's when like the ideas can start to come to life and the flowers are blooming, and the
Yeah.
sun is starting to come out again, and you're starting to see new life. It's like you've rested up so that the spring you can start to put the seeds in the ground and like start to do
Yeah.
all those things. And then now it's defrosting, and now the summertime, that's when like full at it, you feel your best, you're tan, you look good, feel good, play good, like all the things, like bam, summertime, bomb, fall. Okay. That's a busy season for photographers.
Yeah.
That's probably our busiest time of year. We aren't going to get a ton of rest. It's also busy for our kids, also
Yeah.
busy for school functions. And then, you know what? F it. Just throw in the holidays. Why not? Let's just like top
The
it off.
details.
Let's
Yeah.
just do that. And then let's just totally crush our souls so that during the winter we question everything about our lives. Do you think that sums it up?
It sums it up, except I have to make an amendment because everything we're doing this year is new for us. Everybody in Washington wanted to come visit us in the winter. So from January 26th to the very last days of February, we had 4 days in our home without a visitor.
Yeah.
We have a visitor coming in 2 days. And then 2 days after that, we're leaving. We I didn't get time to grow.
Yeah.
So
No, you didn't.
if I lack growth this year and I'm still immature, then that's why. No, but we're learning, right? Like next year, I'm gonna have to be like, I know that everybody from Washington wants to come down here when it's
Yeah.
so sad up there, but I'm gonna have to spread it out a little bit more. But
Yeah.
one of my best friends came to visit me, and I'm telling you, it like gave me so much life.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, everybody who visits does, but I told Will that she was coming and to act like I wasn't here. We were both here, but it was like
Mm.
we stayed up till like 3 a.m. eating pizza
Yeah.
and getting piercings and just really acting like we never see each other again.
Yeah. I love
So,
that. I can't wait to
yeah.
visit. Okay, I'm going to schedule mine next January. That's what I'm hearing is the best time.
Come over my wedding anniversary so I can have a babysitter.
Yes. That's a good idea.
My
Idea
dad
to have
come this
some.
year.
You should always do that.
Mhm.
More. So that's awesome. I think that's a really good perspective to have, that you need to go through the seasons and experience all of them before you can really find your groove.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice for anybody who's listening. It doesn't matter if you relocate or not. New moms, I think new moms listen to this, like, you're going to
Yeah.
kind of have to go through that new season of, oh my gosh, now I have another life to take care of. Like, it's not just my
Yeah.
business. And understanding you're going to ride those waves of the seasonal changes.
And
And
you'll see other people on
yeah,
social media doing other things than you're doing when you have a new baby or when you have a new business or when you have a new niche or a new brand. But like, okay, I had to be cool with doing 10 sessions instead of 14 in one day.
yeah,
It's hard, but you also have to be able to like give yourself grace, And if you do relocate, like another major thing is climate. I'm like, well, I'm not shooting anything here in July. Someone said they were coming to visit me from Washington in July, and I was like, I actually won't be here.
you're like, no.
So it's like also figuring out the shooting busy times and schedule for people here and stuff like that. You have to be able to, in those transitions, to really, I mean, not that I'm able to do it, but I'm trying to block out a lot of the noise. And I'm not really active on Instagram right
Yeah,
now. And
yeah,
that makes me feel really sad because that's where my business was thriving before I
mhm,
left.
yeah,
And I feel really sad that sometimes I feel like I can't even get on there. And it's like, that's a whole conversation, but
mhm,
being able to be graceful with, okay,
yeah,
well, this is all I can do right now. Because being on here is not good for me. I'm just such an emotional person. I care about all the things. I have attachments to everything. So
yeah.
just trying to be careful with myself too.
Yeah, you have to set up your boundaries. Talk a little bit about those boundaries, like as you've moved and dealing with like FOMO, like kind of watching people do
Mhm.
things and
Yeah.
navigating that. Have you been? How have you been?
How have I been? Well, I've been good. I think before I say I'm not in my 20s, I'm not even in my 30s anymore. I turned 40 like 2 weeks after we moved here. And I absolutely, it's just mind blowing to me every time I even think about it. But, we didn't get to celebrate my birthday. All of our plans for my birthday lives like family first, which is the most important. But it's still like, oh man, I wish I really would have been able to embrace that and celebrate it.
Yeah.
And there will be a time and place for that. But relocating and having the FOMO and everything, it's not, I don't know what it would be like to move in my 20s or early 30s, but it's hard because of the attachment. I talked to Will about this and I'm like, man, I see people on Instagram and places just like TikTok, and people are moving all the time. I meet so many people here in Dallas who aren't from here and they relocated too. And it just, I don't know why. I feel like everyone I meet or everyone I see, I'm like, oh, they're having such an easier time than me.
Mm.
There's no reason for me to even think that or know
Right.
that about these strangers. But I think there is something to being in one place until you're 40 and then leaving. I'm like so deeply rooted,
Right.
and I moved a lot when I was younger, and so I finally felt like at home. So I think with the FOMO and stuff, I think it's just so much more to me.
Yeah.
It's like not just like missing out. It's like I really
That
miss
it's
the
yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
more serious.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that I am balancing no longer being a default friend for people because I'm not there. And then I'm here and I've met so many great people and made so many friends. But like Karina said in her episode, she was saying how her dad told her, because she was marrying a guy in the military and they were going to be moving around. And he said, when people don't invite you into their lives or to do things with them because those people don't move around, typically, and they're really rooted there and they've already kind of got their lives going on. And that was exactly what I've been feeling, but not being put into words.
Yeah.
You don't just become a default friend. I have friends and I already know like, oh, all these people could be my people. They're so great. But to be someone that they call just because, or like, I want to go here and do this. Do you
Yeah.
want to come with me? That takes a lot of time and a lot of fostering relationships. So I'm working on that. And then I want to be a default friend for people here. And then I'm also losing the default friend there. And so it's just hard to be anywhere, to like be online for here or there, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
see somebody doing something and I'm like, oh yeah, like of course they're all doing that together. They've all known each other and they grew up in this neighborhood together. And I'm still really new in fostering those relationships. And then I see people from home and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even know that was going on. And so just sitting with that, and it's like nothing
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah.
It's not personal, but it is like a growing moment for me and like facing inward a lot. So, our family being a priority is just what it is now.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's like if you were to leave and nothing existed anymore but the people in your house, like that's your family,
Yeah.
and that's the most important. So, really valuing and understanding how important all of the family is to me and Will is to me and stuff has just been like really eye opening too.
Yeah. That's such a good point about default friend stuff. It is really hard when like you see a group of friends like going off and they're going skiing and you weren't invited because you're not in that core group that they go with. And then this other friend group's over here and you're not quite with them yet either. And so it's such an interesting place to live and it's really difficult, especially for people who are outgoing and thrive on being in those
Social.
social
Yeah.
settings. Yeah.
And there's like
Yeah.
that honesty of like, people aren't really looking for new friends when they're in their late 30s or 40s. And I wasn't either.
Yeah.
I knew that this would be something, and Will knew too. He was worried about me leaving all of my community and all of my people. Even just being two time zones apart, it's only 2 hours, but like by 10 a.m. in Washington, my time is up. I've got a kid back who I'm taking care of. And then at 8 o'clock for me is like 6 o'clock and people are doing dinner. And then people start calling me after 10 p.m. I used to be a night owl and I'm trying not to be. I thought before we left, it's only 2 hours. And now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it is 2 hours. Like,
Yeah.
I want to call you and it's 5 a.m. for you. Can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is really hard. Like, you don't really
Yeah.
get to line it up perfectly all the time. And,
Yeah. Especially with kids,
um,
businesses,
yeah.
it's just all of it. I think the whole point is, man, and I'm telling myself this, I don't have anything to back it up, but it's like moving when you're 40 is different than moving when you're 25,
Yeah.
but I don't know that.
Totally.
It's hard
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah. I agree. We're on the topic of community. This month is the Mom Boss Meetup's 1 year anniversary. It's our 1 year birthday. You've been there from the beginning, literally, like, it obvious, like, you weren't like the person that I talked to in 2021 about it, but you were
Mhm.
there as I was like, hey, I think I'm gonna actually make this happen.
Yeah.
Um, Talk a little bit about to you and what is something that you appreciate about being a part of the community.
Yeah.
I'm curious from your perspective, watching it grow.
Yeah. Well, you were my initial draw. So there's Bailey. But I don't know. I think that, again, getting older and having these kids get a little bit bigger and starting to get a little bit of your time back. When you started talking about having the first meetup, I was like, oh, yeah, of course I'll go. And I didn't really know what to expect. But oh my gosh, I won't forget that first meeting. It was so much fun. And it was just really nice to be in a setting with people who kind of get it and have similar struggles, concerns, and obstacles. And then also those same people who have overcome things that you're trying to work out yourself. It's like getting free mentorship, which costs thousands of dollars. It's just having a group of people who get it. Everybody's working after bedtime and figuring things out between field trips and newborn babies and stuff. So it's quite literally the community and being in a place where you don't have to say it, like everybody just gets it. It's really important.
Oh, I love it. When are you going to start the Mom Boss Meetup Dallas chapter?
Whenever you want me to.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I think it'll be
Okay.
awesome. You need
It's on
it. You
record.
need
It's
it.
on record.
We'll talk
Yeah.
about it. We'll get
Yeah.
that
That would
going.
be fun. That'd be fun.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is community. It's been proven time and time again. And I talked about this on Gina's podcast when I was on her podcast. You and I met during Gina's workshop in 2022. And I didn't even want to go do it. Like, I was just like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't need this. I'm 10 years into my business at this point. I
Yeah.
just didn't really think it was for me. And I didn't even get to like attend all of the workshop days, which kind of sucks. But what I got out of that, like, I still talk to a lot of the people from that group.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, we've gotten really close over the last several years. We've spent more time in person. You guys have all become a part of the in person Mom Boss meetup group. I knew very quickly the importance of community. And
Yeah.
even meeting you and other photographers, meeting other moms who are photographers, like knowing that you said it when earlier in the podcast episode, when you moved, you had like a plethora of photographers because you had made that community before you left. You had made friends in the photography community that you could trust and you could confidently pass on to your clients that you have worked with for years and years. So, kind of speak to that, just like the building of the community, finding photographer friends, and how you plan to do that in Dallas.
Yeah. Um, I just think that group we did with Gina, it was online and it was 10 girls and it was for 5 days. And I just like cannot say enough about, like, I don't even know what to say about it because I really walked out of there and I ended up having a friendship with you and Emily and Kristen. And when I got on that first Zoom meeting with everybody, I didn't know anyone but Gina. And you guys, like the four of you, are really like a really big part of me having that like decision making when moving. Will was like, I know you're leaving these girls behind. And it was specifically to you guys. I have my lifelong friends, my people who are in Washington
Mhm.
too, outside of that, because you guys were in the same industry, doing the same thing and working at the same venues. It's like having coworkers. You spend all this time with your
Hmm.
coworkers, right? So we all became really close like that. It was just a whole extra group of friends, real friends, not just like, oh,
Hmm.
hey, we work in the same venues or with the same
Yeah.
people. It really was important to do something like that for myself. And then this turned into the Mom Boss meetup for you, which just kind of
Mhm.
spiraled. And just to think that we weren't connected before that, you know?
I think that it's a big deal that we all did connect and that our, gosh, what is it, 3 years later, still friends and like still
Yeah.
talk and still hang out and stuff. And I think that it's just so special and it speaks to the community and the need for community too, like
Yeah.
moms needing each other. Lindsay's the type of friend who I needed some like emotional support. And my husband was at rugby and I needed to clean my house. And Lindsay comes over and is hanging out with me from like the hours of 8 until midnight while I
Yeah.
cleaned and she was editing. And I was like, no, I don't need you to help me. I just need you to sit here and be in the room. That's all
Yeah.
I needed was an emotional support human. That's the type of friend that everyone deserves and that I really love and appreciate. Selfishly, I was really sad when Lindsay left, and I know that you were that person for a lot of people. And so it's probably good for you that you like get to go and make some new friends who don't rely on you for
My
their
friends in
emotional
Dallas
support.
are like so much more self-sufficient. No, I'm joking.
It's the seasonal depression of the Pacific Northwest friends. Like it
Washington has
really,
a hold on us on that
yeah,
depression.
it's
Yeah,
we're a mess.
I know.
Um I think this is a good transition into some fun, like wrap it up like questions. Just I want to kind of, you know,
This will be our
throw a couple
shortest
things out.
conversation ever.
I think you're right. Like we do not get off the phone easily. I wanted to ask you what you think your superpower is.
Okay, I'm going to say this because I said it the other day to someone and I was a little bit serious, but it's not going to be what anyone thinks.
Oh.
My superpower is under pressure getting ready. I'm a night owl, so that makes me not a morning person. And the other morning, I wanted Will to take Liv to school. And he kind of expected me to do her lunch and like do her hair and things that I typically would do when I ask him to take her to school. But that morning I had to get going. So he kind of rolled his eyes at me. And I went into this mode of like, fine, I'll do everything you want. Plus, I'll do all my own stuff and I'll show you that it can be done. And I'm not
Hmm.
joking. In 12 minutes, I showered, washed my hair, made her lunch, made her breakfast, and had my hair blow dried before he got back from taking William to school and left. And it was like, see,
Yeah.
it can be done.
Yeah.
And
You're
so
kind
I
of
think,
like, it's like a stubbornness. Like, it's like,
yeah,
yeah.
someone had asked me to go to coffee after drop off with Liv, and I kind of made a joke like, "Well, I'm still in my pajamas, so we'll see." And it was like
Hmm.
I had to get going. And I
Yeah.
showed up at the school 15 minutes later and she was like, "You were in your pajamas 15 minutes ago." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it's my superpower." I've always
That's
been like that.
awesome.
I wake up 15 minutes before I have to leave for work. You could throw a shower in there.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
hair and
That's
makeup
really
done.
amazing.
That's my
Wow.
superpower.
That's a good one.
But
Okay.
my
I like
husband
that.
will say I'm never on time for anything. I'm getting a lot better though.
I like same. Same.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk birthday. We're gonna go into the birthday
Yes,
book.
this is
I know you've
it.
been waiting for this. The only reason you
Oh,
said yes
this
to
is
the
the only
podcast.
reason I'm here. Hey, what if this doesn't work? It's been so spot on for everyone else.
I know.
The
Is this
pressure. Ooh,
is this an intrusive thought?
no.
You're right.
This
You're
is
right.
a
It's not.
legitimate worry. But the
No,
birthday
I'm
book will work
actually
for everyone but me. Okay, let's hear it.
the birthday book, September 16th. Okay. You have a bright and versatile nature with many talents. Yours is a keen, penetrating mind which works with speed and accuracy. You have a strong sense of social justice and seem especially suited for a career in law or politics. Curb your tendency to become too aloof and austere.
Ooh, my husband
Wow.
would say that I'm aloof. I didn't work in law or politics, but I did work in social services.
Welcome to the Mom Boss Podcast, the show where motherhood meets business and everything in between. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Let's get started. Okay. I think
Mhm.
you have a strong sense of social justice. I think that's spot on. Bright
Yeah.
and versatile nature with many talents.
Mhm.
That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. I
I
think it's
think
spot
so.
on. This is spot on.
I think
Oh,
so too.
I
I'm
love it.
past this minute. Yeah, I think
The
so.
austere, I don't know what that means.
Social injustice is a huge one. I
Yeah.
always feel really misunderstood. I'm always really quick to be like, that's not fair. Like, that shouldn't happen. That's not fair. And then I
Hmm.
get all worked up about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to do a quick, kind of like just sort of the first thing that comes to mind, like when I ask
Okay.
you a question. I don't
Okay.
even know what the questions are going to be. They're just going to come to my brain, okay?
Oh, this is a disaster for us both. Okay,
It
let's
could
go.
be. What's your guilty pleasure?
Reality TV.
What's your go-to show?
Ooh, my go-to, it depends on the season. Kardashians just came back. I know that's a real throwback, but they're on Hulu and it's like, you know, I feel like I just have to literally keep up. But I'm like a Bravo Southern Charm. So Southern Charm, I think, is underrated. Everybody watches The Housewives. I watch a lot of them, but I'm really into Southern Charm right now.
I have never kept up with a
And
Kardashian
it's
or
getting
like,
terrible ratings. Like Southern
oh,
Charm
really?
this season is getting terrible ratings, but I'm here for it. When
Okay,
I've
I have
been through
to check
something
it out.
since the beginning, it's a loyalty
Yeah,
thing.
you're a loyal girly. That
Yeah.
totally tracks. What's your favorite meal?
Oh, probably like, I really love salmon. Yeah, you didn't
I
think I
was
was
like,
gonna say that. Is that a meal?
well, yeah, no, that's totally a meal. What's like your side with it? Mashed potatoes or
Brussels
rice?
sprouts, asparagus, or broccoli, like a grain.
A
Quinoa,
green
not rice.
quinoa. Okay, I'm
That's like
so
my
thrown off.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
even know what to ask.
That's like a very Pacific Northwest
It's
answer.
such.
I love
I'm really
kale
into
and
salmon too.
salmon, but I
Yeah,
can make it at home. If I was gonna go out to eat, then take me to get some pasta.
really.
Yeah, like Italian food.
Okay.
Like the Olive Garden. Take me somewhere nice.
Take me to the Olive Garden.
Take me to the nicest place
Um,
you know.
oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, you can't go wrong with the never-ending pasta and breadsticks and salad. What would you be doing if you weren't a photographer? What's like your other dream job?
I would be back in social services doing social work. I worked for a long time in domestic violence shelters in Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd do that. That was really fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would do a different area of social work, but I would move on from domestic
That would
violence.
be really difficult as somebody who like you carry the weight of people's feelings and like emotions. That would be really difficult to decompress from. No wonder you can't decompress quickly. You're stacked up with all these other people's traumas.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends why you went into it, why you're
Yeah.
doing it, what it means to you, and what the mission is for you. And
Yeah.
so I think the purpose, like, what's your purpose? And my purpose was so meaningful to me at the time, but I think I've served well in that
Yeah.
community. I did it full time for a while, and then I did it while I was working my full time job that I was at before I was a photographer. I did it part time and on call for a few years too, but it also gets a little bit dangerous.
Yeah. You're right. What's your mission? What's your why? Why like what are you
Yeah,
what's your favorite dance move?
like a pas de bourrée,
I'm
pirouette,
s-
combo. I danced for a
um
long time. I didn't know what to say. If I was supposed to be like the lawnmower or a pas de bourrée, I don't know what this means.
yeah. Yeah. I danced for a long time, but I do not know that word. What's your favorite city to visit?
New York.
Ooh, any special reason?
Oh, it's just so magical. It's like, can we cuss on here? It's like such a
Yeah.
mind fuck. You're just walking around the streets and you look up and everybody lives here. They're like businesses and apartments. And the fact that
Yeah.
people don't live in houses, they buy apartments. It's just crazy to me. And I love the Plaza Hotel because I grew up obsessed with the Eloise books and movie where she lived in the Plaza Hotel and her parents didn't watch her. So I don't know, it's just like something magical about all the TV shows and stuff, and I like to go during Christmas time. Christmas is my favorite, and I can
Yeah.
just sit on a bench in Central Park. It's, like, so beautiful there.
We should take a girls trip there.
Let's go.
That would be so fun.
Yeah.
What's your favorite writing utensil? This is a question I've asked before and I kind of like it.
They're those, what are they? They're the colored pens. They're the markers, the fine tip markers. They come in all the colors. I probably,
Pen mate,
yep.
like the pen mate.
I'm
They're like
looking
kind of
for one.
tapered. I have them.
I don't know how you know that, but yeah, they're good. I like that one.
That's like only someone who asks that question knows
No,
writing
that's true.
utensils.
That's
Like,
true.
what's your favorite scent?
Like money.
Scent. Perfect. Great. Like, that's great. It's like, perfect. Okay.
It was like, "Are you talking about money?" And this is just the epitome of being a mom of a kindergartner who they're learning about coins and cents and things right now. So I was like, "Are you asking me if I like dimes?"
Oh, you thought cents.
Yeah. I was like, "What
Cents.
is this wor what are we doing?"
Money works for your favorite smell.
Thank you.
I thought that was actually a much better response. What's your Enneagram?
Oh, it was like a 2 wing something. It was just
Oh,
2. I need to
yeah.
redo it. I don't think I redid it and I don't remember, but I was a 2, like solid 2. People pleaser, like helping people. If you have a problem, send it my way,
Yeah.
but I'm not
Yeah.
like that anymore. I
You're
went to
changing.
retake it, but I think I fell asleep when I was answering the question.
Of course, because that sounds freaking boring.
It
I
was
haven't
the
taken that
middle of the night
yet.
and I was like, "Let's do this quiz," instead of
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. Well, of course, because that's the only time moms have to decompress.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of advice that you want to pass on to moms who are listening or who might be in a similar situation as you? Any words of encouragement or words of wisdom for the moms out there?
I think you just have to do it. Like, if you have a dream or a passion project or anything that you want to do for yourself to contribute to your household, and if you're like, I don't know if I can make money at this, you can. Just, you have to do it, show up. I used to show up very comfortably on the internet for people and for myself. And now I'm shifting to being like a veteran, to just feeling like I'm brand new all over again. And
Mhm.
that's not true. I'm not new at this. My pricing doesn't need to reflect that because I'm the new kid in town.
Mhm.
And I think that, like, whatever it is, you just have to go for it and keep doing it
Yeah.
and not worry about what people are going to think, and just show up where you can and when you can. And I think that everybody says that, especially about social media. But it's so true. You don't have to have the perfect thing, the perfect product, and you just have to be authentic. I think that I'm pretty vulnerable on social media when I do show up. It's really scary, but
Mhm.
I don't know how else to do it. I can't write a salesy caption about why you should pick me. I think photography is just so much about being friends with these people and having these relationships and people trusting you, being authentic, and just show up wherever you can.
Well, you've built a personal brand, and that helps you show up authentically, and that builds the like, no trust factor, and it it helps. Like it helps when you show up authentically and vulnerably, and there's something to be said for that. So keep
Mhm.
it up. I think that's great advice. I just wanted to sign this off with thanking you for everything. Thank you for being such a vital part of the Mom Boss community. I know that you would love to be at every meetup, but I love that you get to come back to some. You
No,
know,
it's
it's
hard.
it's hard. It's
When are
hard.
you guys having your next one?
March 26th. But no, thank you so much for being like just a listening ear, helping with just getting this thing to where it is. Like it wouldn't be here if you hadn't shown up to that first meetup. Like it just wouldn't have been. And so I really appreciate the support for the Mom Boss community. I really do want you to start the Mom Boss Dallas. I'm excited for that. Will you tell the people where they can find you and follow you and keep up with what you're up to?
Ooh, yes. At Lindsay Jarrell underscore on Instagram and Lindsay's Littles underscore. Keep it consistent. And lindsayjarrell.com. But Bailey, thank you for doing the Mom Boss meetup for everybody. You're killing it.
Yeah.
You're bringing
Thank you.
everybody together. You appreciate it. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. I'm shocked we didn't have a couple tears on here, but I think it's because we talk all the time. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's listening. Make sure that you review the podcast, obviously, if you like it, share it with your friends. I can't wait to see you for our next episode. Okay, take care. Bye.